Hello, everyone. This is Michael with dataBridge. We're going to get started in about 50 seconds. Welcome, everybody. We're going to get started in just about 30 seconds. All right. Welcome to the SharePoint Concierge webinar by dataBridge. We appreciate everybody's participation today. For SharePoint Concierge clients, welcome back. You'll have all the deliverables from this, the recording and the decks and how-tos and all that good stuff deposited into your learning site. For any guests that we have today that aren't clients yet, we welcome you. Today we're going to cover 4 topics that I think you'll find interesting. One of the things I'm excited about is AI in Microsoft 365, and specifically Copilot and SharePoint, being able to leverage large language models and your data to be able to do some pretty cool things. And while those features are just beginning to be rolled out, our plan is to deliver probably over the next 4, 5, 6 webinars, additional information and additional features as those arrive. So I'm excited about that. Andrea Skinner is going to be your moderator today. I will turn it over to her, and she will kind of give you an agenda and introduce our presenters.
Thank you, Michael. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Today we've got some great topics, and I'll share that on the screen here so you can see what's coming up. And we hope that we spark some interest with the presentations today. So we're going to start out with the Microsoft Copilot. I know that we've introduced this in a previous webinar. This is just an add-on, and as Michael mentioned, we'll continue doing AI presentations for the next several months. And then we'll follow Dylan with a topic on custom forms and approvals using adaptive cards. That will be presented by Ken Lewis. SharePoint e-signature is available now in your tenant. If it's not there quite yet, it's going to be there soon. And Hayden will be presenting that. And then we'll kind of show just a little tip on how to use existing webinars from Microsoft Teams and build new ones based on existing ones, so you don't have to kind of do that from scratch each time. A few instructions before we get started. Your mics are muted, so please, if you have any questions along the way, you can put them in the chat, and the team will reply in real time for your questions. And then we're also, at the end of everybody's presentations today, we're going to open up mics and we'll do live Q&A chat if you want to hang around for that, or if you have any specific questions that we don't answer in the chat, we'll do that at the end of the webinar. So again, thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us today. Let's jump right in and learn together. Now we will hand this over to Dylan, leveraging that Microsoft Copilot. Over to you, Dylan.
Hey, everyone. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so in today's presentation, we'll learn about some of the capabilities of the Microsoft 365 Copilot, and hopefully as well help demystify the term a little bit, as it is reused for throughout Microsoft for a lot of their AI generative application. Anywhere where they're using AI, they might use that term Copilot basically. And so I'll try to work through that a little bit. in terms of what each one means. And our focus will be on the 365 one. And I want to give some examples and show you how you could use it if you do get that service, that particular Copilot for 365. Just do an introductory on that. And maybe also touch on how you could prepare some of your data as they start to roll out more of the the integrations with AI to make your data more searchable, findable by by the services that they're going to be offering and have started to offer. So just getting started here, some of the terms that we'll refer to, and these terms will also just kind of explain a little bit about what it what it is that we're covering as well. So the Copilot, that word, as mentioned, that's their generative AI service, their term that they use for their different AI services for their applications. And they have a few different sort of models. So a lot of you probably have just seen a basic Copilot, maybe on your Windows. If you've updated your Windows recently, you might have seen that little Copilot icon. It's also in your Edge browser. So, that's sort of their free offering. And just by default to offer a certain amount of, it's not necessarily connected to all your data, but it can have some context of, and, answer questions about the page you're on, things of that nature. Then they have the Copilot Pro, which is more of just your personal, if you want to get like a pro model, almost more like a Chat GPT within Microsoft, but that's really more for like a personal Microsoft account. It wouldn't be for your work account. And then the one we're going to focus on today being for the one for 365. So it's connected to all your data, grounded in the graph, and I'll explain a little bit about the graph as well. So that's the one that's really going to be, that's interconnected to everything, and that's what we'll be focusing on, is actually taking advantage of that one. And then just also mention Copilot Studio. Maybe in future webinars we'll cover that, but that's more of the customizable one. So as opposed to having a personal Copilot that's just automatically integrated, you can also just build your own sort of chatbots or whatever it might be. And that's what the Copilot Studio is just building custom ones for yourselves or your company. So just coming down the list of the terms here, I went ahead and put this term semantic indexing or semantic index, or you could say intelligent search, which is what this Copilot will use. And whether you're using this 365 Copilot or some of the other AI integrations with your search, it basically can tie keywords to maybe similar to how you would as a, more in a human way, where you might want to ask someone, where is that recent expense report, as opposed to, literally typing out the name of the expense report. You just want to be able to, it's more of just having the semantics to be able to search, not necessarily exactly what that item is called, but the search or the AI being able to understand what you're referring to, more in just a plain language type of way. So once you get a Copilot or you get some of the AI integrations, it's helping to create a more robust experience for finding a document. Like, what's my most recent email, or when's the webinar, as opposed to me having to type out like, webinar, March 2020, so that's what semantic index is referring to. And then just coming down the list to graph. So the graph is just what's connecting everything in your environment. So, where you can, there's SharePoint search, and then there's also all your different apps in your OneDrive. And, the graph is what can connect all the SharePoint with all your different apps in your OneDrive, with the documents on your computer. So it's, just connecting the whole environment basically. And that's sort of the big, way to access, everything that's, so it's not all segmented. And then just the term GPT, just to let you know as well. So you'll actually see this used as well in the Copilot, like Studio and things of that nature, or even if you have one of the personal Copilots, it'll mention you can create your own GPTs. And that's, that's a term. There's also Chat GPT, that everyone might be familiar with, but also just in a general sense, it's it is a term, generative pre-trained transformer, which it's basically like, yeah, you can create your own little chatbots, so you might see that term used if you, start to look more into the Copilot in the 365. So with that said, we can also send you guys, link or something like that if you want they have a couple different, sort of pages, documents that try to break this down a little bit. But yeah, you can see it's a little confusing, even offering potentially at first when you just see the same term used over and over. But, at least the one we're focusing on is going to be, the one for 365. And so they have the pricing models here for that. And you can see this one at the moment is an annual commitment, the one we're going to be looking into. So, if someone is considering, getting this, just keep in mind for this particular one, it is per user and it's an annual commitment at the moment. But there's many other offerings beyond this one. This is just the one I'm going to be covering today. So I'll bring this off the screen. And what I want to do is show, some examples of what we're talking about. So basically it's connecting to all our different applications. And even just this month, literally, as we're on the webinar, I was just checking before to see if they already integrated it with the SharePoint and OneDrive as I got a notification in the admin center that was being rolled out. But just to show you, I'm going to open up the Teams first. So for those, if one of you do decide to get that, or maybe be the guinea pig that does want to try this particular license, here in Teams, now that I have it, I see the Copilot as one of my tabs. It's one of my apps, that I can find in Teams. It's just one way to access it. It's going to be available, throughout all your different apps, but this is just one way to get into the chat sort of interface where I could ask it a question. And just to show you some of the things you could do, you could ask, when is my, you could just ask questions about your next meetings, your appointments. You can use it to find documents. It'll start to search. You can see I can use this little tab icon and it'll just start to pull up recent documents. You can ask questions about those documents. So potentially it could help you save time. And let me actually show you another example. I don't want to spend too much time with any particular one, but just to show you here, just to go through an example I already have open here for this webinar. So actually for me to open this webinar today, what I did is I actually went and asked about my topic to see if it would, find my topic within this within this PowerPoint presentation. And I was able to find that and actually give me some information about my topic that I had mentioned that's in this one of the slides. So it was able to access this particular document, tell me about my topic, and I could even ask it more questions. And I did that by just using this, the / and, clicking that presentation and then just, asking a question about my topic. And something I will mention as well, I think it's great for this particular offering as well as the Copilot Studio. I think they're great for the fact that they are connected to your data and can be used as like an enhanced search experience to be able to ask questions, potentially save you time on maybe scouring through large documents, whatever it might be, when you're just looking for something specific. And it does a good job on picking up on that, and they're really improving all the time. But you are able to also expand more than what's just in your data, and it is technically can be connected to the web as well, or to the full-on ChatGPT. So Microsoft made huge investment. They have a secure version within Azure of the sort of OpenAI, all the different APIs for that. So if you as a company you're not allowed to use maybe outside, you're not allowed to talk or use AI for anything related to company data. This one is within your environment, so it does meet those security standards. It's not leaking outside of your environment. This is all enclosed in there, so it does meet even the highest sort of security standards. The GC high and all of that kind of thing. So so that is nice that potentially this would be the way where you could get a productivity tool that maybe before you couldn't take advantage of within your company. So just to let you know, you can also use it in that kind of way where I can just ask it questions. You can see I can even switch here to the web. They put tabs. I can also open it in a notebook version to work through stuff. So basically, you can get the full sort of ChatGPT or similar type of experience to that of just asking it questions, and it can pull data from the web. Or you can specifically, talk about your data or keeping up to date with what maybe your manager's doing or what one of your employees are doing, whatever it might be. So pretty nice just in that aspect that it's, you can have all those different sort of options within there, to have the ChatGPT, the web, and then also connect to your data. But also, that's sort of just using it as the more of that chat experience, more like, like almost using ChatGPT or something, but connected to your data. But you also have the option within your different apps. So I've notated a few of them here, and I just want to show a couple examples of some other examples that I did. For instance, I'm in the new, this is just a view from the new Microsoft note-taking app Loop. It's actually pretty nice. I actually like it. And so what I did is I took my fast notes. This is just a little block of fast notes with some typos. It's a little bit out of order. I was taking them very fast. And what I did is I just took these notes and I could ask Copilot to rewrite them and put them in order for me. So, or whatever I would want. If I wanted to say, can you put this more into a table, or just take out I can just start to type and say, hey, can you put this in order and make it nice? Or I don't know, you could ask it for whatever, but the point is, potentially this is just something that could help you just get them into a nice format where you're still the one that's driving, you're still the one that's doing the work there, but you're potentially just helping save time or get your stuff sort of a little bit nicer, and maybe save you a little bit of time, or potentially a lot of time, depending on what it does, what the scenario is. So, it just get it to reorganize it for me, make it nice, help it make sense. I had already done it here. I just was doing it again as an example. But, getting my notes in order, it's removing all the typos, whatever else, hopefully make it more readable. And, I could even ask it to, expand upon what it's done here, for instance, or, create other types of content based off my notes. So, I mean, it's pretty nice. And to be able to do that on the fly within an app, you don't necessarily have to go to the separate chat to do that. And then just while we're still talking about using the different apps, I have Word open as well. I just want to show these. So throughout my different apps that I'm logged into my account with, you actually see now when I open a new Word document, if I want, I could ask it to start drafting something for me. It has this little Copilot icon now in my Word and all the different apps. Also, it's inline here, so I could ask it to do an outline for me. Also, if I have like a note file, or maybe, I don't know, any type of document that it could read, I could add that as a reference file, say, hey, can you take, these quick notes I did, whatever it might be, and just add that and tell it to make it nice for you, that kind of thing, see what it does. And I could add if I want to give it any specific instructions, I could just describe that there, just by typing in, putting a reference, maybe even just copy pasting the notes into the draft. So it's pretty nice that it's just in all the different apps, including your Outlook. I mean, it's going to be pretty similar. So I'm just kind of painting the picture a little bit here. But you'll see, when I open a new Outlook account or a new email, it has the option to do a draft. It has the option up here to coach you if you want, or do a draft as well. So the coaching being like maybe what would be a good response or something like that for a particular email thread or whatever, so they have some slightly different features depending on the app. And so as they integrate them into the different apps, you can, with this particular Copilot for 365, you're kind of getting their sort of curated, developed experience. You don't have to do any development to set this up. This is just a matter of setting it up on your billing account and assigning someone for that year commitment. And they're I'd say almost every other week, there's something new that's coming out right now. So it's moving pretty fast. Even before this meeting, I was just noticing that they're about ready to roll out a couple new features, and I did earlier at the end of last week as well. So it is moving pretty fast, but ultimately it is still in the early phases, I would say. This feature before this year was only a 300 plus seat feature. So you had to be, like a very large enterprise company to get this particular Copilot, but they've opened it up now. So there's no seating, or requirement. It could just be one person trying it out. And if you like, you could add more people to it. But it is currently, I don't think there is a trial that I'm aware of. There may be. You can use the free features. There also have previews of certain Copilots within some of the apps that you just get by default, just to try them out. So you might start to see those pop up. For instance, the SharePoint one, I know that's going to be included with this license, but sometimes, we'll see maybe they'll even include that as a preview for people to try out without the Copilot license. And of course, if you like this, but you don't think this can would scale to maybe hundreds of people, or it would be hard to make that commitment now. There is many other sort of pricing models that they offer as well, like the Copilot Studio. So you can make a couple, maybe like a policy chatbot, make a best practices chatbot, and that can just be a flat rate. So anyways, they're making every different possible sort of pricing model or option. If you just want to use like an API, like a ChatGPT style API and build something, you can do it that way too, and do a pay as you go. You can do the flat rate Copilot Studio, and you get like thousands of conversations a month, and you don't have to pay that per license. So anyways, I won't go any deeper into that, but it's just to show you a little introduction, some of the options that are in there, and there's way more actually. It's just too much to get into. But if you want to look into that, you can always reach out to us if you do want a little bit of clarification on any of those features. And future webinars, yeah, we'll get more into some of the different aspects of what it can do. But I think with that in mind, I think that'll cover my topic, and I'll hand this back over.
Thank you, Dylan. Yeah, times are changing, and yeah, I know for me, I've always kind of like, oh no, not a new Windows release, and so now this is a whole other level, but all very exciting. So next we'll hear from Ken on adaptive cards. Over to you, Ken.
Great, thanks. So we're going to look at a technology today that you've probably experienced if you've used the approval function in Power Automate, and that's the adaptive card tool. The approval function has a locked down card, so it doesn't have a lot that you can customize, and there's often been requests to have something that is much more configurable, and that's what we're going to look at today, is a fully configurable version. It's a version that you essentially own 100% of in terms of the information that you're either asking for or displaying, and it's a generic technology. It's not owned by any company. It's open source, and so it is applied everywhere. A lot of companies have adopted it, and it uses a display mechanism which is aware of and agnostic to its display medium. So if you're looking at something on a phone or a tablet or on a PC, the system is going to understand that it's looking at that data on a particular device, and it responds accordingly. So you get a really nice UI no matter where you're trying to use this technique. So we'll take a look at an example today where we're going to create a review mechanism similar to the approval mechanism, but we're going to own 100% of that experience. And we'll look at the editor and where you can learn more about this technology. This, just like AI, is a very vast area. This tool set, really, at the end of the day, can be used to do quite a bit. And so we're going to look at one very targeted example, but we're going to look at a bunch of samples as well that you might think of as a springboard to take you in the direction that you want to go. So we'll go look at the tool itself from the beginning, which is the adaptivecards.io site. And this allows you to take a look at how cards can look in various environments. So we can go to the samples area, and we can look at a whole bunch of different samples. So here, for example, you see you've got an activity update that somebody has requested, and we can go through and look at.
And I'm not seeing that on
Am I
your
not
screen.
sharing?
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Let me make sure I'm sharing out. Sorry. I thought I hit share, but I did not. There we go. All right, so let's go back one level and we'll take a look at the base site. So this is the site that will allow you to take a look at samples and to look at the code. There's a developer in here we'll take a look at. They call it the designer. It's right here. And the easiest way to get started is to take a look at the samples and then springboard off of one of the samples that's closest to what it is that you're trying to accomplish, and then tweak that code as you go. So here, for example, you can see an activity update. This is what it would look like. And then you can go through and you can look at an agenda, a flight update. The ones that I like are, there's an input form, and there's a restaurant order information form. And these are really great places to start from because they collect information. This one is drop-down driven, and the input form is free text. So it gives you a really great place to start if you're looking to do data collection in one of the tools. We're going to look at data collection through the Teams interface today when we do our example. But we'll look at the process to get to the Power Automate that I'm going to demonstrate today. Was I started with the input form here, and then I wanted to essentially tweak it, and I wanted to tweak it in the editor here so that I could essentially do a little bit of learning as I went, and also pick up the syntax, right? So I did try yourself, and I get dropped right into the editor. And this shows me my output, and then here's my code down here. It is in JSON format. So if you're familiar with HTML and CSS, and you've used any of the SharePoint, either the view editor or the column editor, to customize how a column or a view looks, this will look very familiar to you. And so it's a great way to basically take that knowledge and extend it one step further. This is a complicated editor. It has a lot of moving parts. So you've got the card structure over here. I can then go in and I can select a particular area. So I can select a text block. It will then show me the properties for it here. This is, again, the base text, the base code. And then once I'm ready to go and I have the card looking the way I want it to look, or close enough, then I can copy that card's payload. And by copying the card's payload, I can now go into Power Automate. And so I'll go into Power Automate here, and I can start to build out my flow to use my card. There are lots of ways to use cards. And so we're going to take a look at a handful of them today, and then we're going to do one example here. And so if I add a new step and I search for the word card, I'll get a series of different options on how I can use cards. And so I can post information out to a specific channel. I can reply to information if I've received, because you can monitor a Teams chat, for example, and then you see that a particular message has come in, and you can reply with an adaptive card. So you can go pull information out of your SharePoint, structure it really nicely in a card, and then post that card back as the reply. What we're going to use is the post adaptive card and wait for a response. But there are the other options. The post adaptive card and wait for a response, I will caution, is I would say about 2/3 baked solution. And the reason I say that is that there is a very technical step that you will have to do, and we'll take a look at that today on this call. But don't let that deter you. It is something that you can absolutely do. It's just not as easy as a lot of the other actions that we work with, like the approval action. If you use the approval action, you'll know that it has a very nice output that comes out of what the person has responded with. So you know who you sent the approval to, you know who responded, you know what they responded with, any comments they made, and it's a very rich response, and that rich response is accessible via the UI. That is not the case with the example we're going to look at today. I believe they'll probably add that feature, within the next year or so. But currently, you will have to do, some parsing manually to understand the response. So I just wanted to caution on that. The other caution that I wanted to put forward is that as you're developing your card here, one of the very first things that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to switch the target version. And that's because various tools, depending on what you're talking to with a data card, speak different levels of the data card language. Teams is fluent with 1.3, and so I pick 1.3 as my going in proposition. That means that there are commands that are not available to me because they're only available in 4, 5, or 6. But 1.3 is very feature rich, and so basically anything you would want to do, you can probably do in 1.3. But that is something you're going to want to do, because if you try to take JSON that was published for 1.4, 5, or 6, you will most likely see a failure when you try to use that card. It'll tell you it can't render the card because there's a feature in there that it's trying to use that the interpreter can't understand. So for our flow, we did a very simple example of having a workflow where a person with a document library could request a review of a particular document. So for a selected file, we launch our card and we wait, and we hear back from the person, and then we update our file properties. So very simple, as you can see. And because we own the entire My Card process, this entire JSON stream here, right, that's our card. And so we can set the card up visually to look however we want, which is the most powerful part of this. Whereas when you use the built-in approval, you get the built-in approval structure. The card looks the way it looks, and a lot of people don't quite like it because it's a very stilted communications interface. This is the same ability, but now you have full control. So if we go look at our demo now, we have a simple document library, and I'll go ahead and seek review of a particular document. It's going to ask me who I want to send the review to, so I'll send it to myself. And I'll run the flow. So now the system is going to send a notification via Teams that this is waiting for me, that this review is waiting for me. So I'll switch over to Teams, and you can see I've got a request here that just came in, and I've got, please review the linked document. I've got the text of the document name. I've got a button to take me out to the document itself, and then I've got comments once I've reviewed it, and then I can submit them back. So I could say, it's good, and I could submit this back. And it will then wrap up, and it tells, that I had sent this to, via Power Automate. So again, that's a to me, very clean response. This piece here, this thanks for your response, that's within the card, and we'll take a look at that. And so you have the ability to put next steps or whatever your follow-on action would be. I just used the default, thanks for your response. But we'll take a look at the actual Power Automate now and just kind of walk through how that worked. So if we look here, I chose to post it as a flow bot. There are other options, and so you can choose to post it. The other cards allow you to post it as yourself if you're posting communication chat. Because of the way that this is working here, and because it has to sit and wait and hear a response back, the flow bot with a chat with the flow bot is the preferred option. Then you have the message itself, and you can see if you read through and parse the message, you have, please review the linked document. That's the header text that we use. You can see the styling that we're using here. You can see that it was a text box. We chose to use medium size, and we choose to have it slightly darker. Those are all something you can change. And again, you can change that in the editor, or if you speak this language because you've been using HTML and CSS for quite a while, you can just come in and manually adjust this. And you can see section by section, there's the file information, there's what's called an action set, which is the button, This opens up the link out to the document. Then we've got our comments box, and then we have our action submit button, and then we have our response. The recipient then is here when we launched the flow, I captured the email manually. You could obviously have drawn that from the document library itself or from another data source if you have a set of reviewers that something has to go to. So this portion right here is out of the box and works exactly as you should expect. So you should be able to go in right now and do this and feel very comfortable about getting the results, particularly if you take an existing sample out of the sample pool that's on the IO site and just paste it in and play with it. That will work exactly the way you expect. The gotcha is going to be that there is no follow-on action. So if I look inside of the actions and I try to do something with the data that's coming out, there's nothing for me to capture the data with. And there is no output in terms of if I go into the dynamic editor. So if I want to pick from the title, for example, you'll notice there's no section here that is the output of the MyCard process. So because there is no data coming back, what you have to get used to doing is you build with just the first two steps and then run your flow. And then if I go into the output of one of my flows, I can actually see the output. So I can go into the MyCard, I can show the raw output, and then I can parse this through and I can say, okay, as part of the body, I've got all of this information that was returned, and part of the information that was returned down in the data section were the AC comments. And so that's the message that I received back. If you had multiple buttons, you would have multiple responses. I only had the one, I had a submit response, but you could have had an approve and a deny, or a approve and a reject, and then you could see, well, which button did they click, and you could capture the comments. So you have everything here, and then what you have to do is you have to manually parse that, and that's this command here. If we look at the update file, go ahead and go into the editor, we just reference the output of the card here. And you can see we're looking at the body of the MyCard response, and then we're pulling from the data section, and we're pulling specifically AC comments. And that's what's going into the reviewer comments. And so that then updates our record here, so we know who the reviewer was and we have their comments. So that's the adaptive data card, kind of in a nutshell. Again, I highly recommend folks go out to the IO site. It's linked on the presentation, and just take a look at the examples that are out here and just play with it. Because I think once you've been hands-on for even as little as about a half an hour with this, you'll get really comfortable with it, and you'll start to see the power that's there. Some of the examples that they built here are actually really neat. They've done some really cool things graphically to present information. The flight update stuff is actually really nice. It's got really nice logos on it. It's just a very nice way to present data back. So instead of responding back with a text message, you could respond back with something that's very rich looking in terms of, graphical. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Ken. I imagine you could probably even use Copilot and help you build some of these as
Oh,
well.
I guarantee it. Yeah, the whole low code Copilot integration is absolutely there.
Yeah, very cool. All right, we will hear from Hayden next on gathering signatures and never leaving SharePoint to do it.
Never
Over to you,
have to
Hayden.
leave it. I love it. Thank you so much, Andrea. Hello, everyone. Hoping you guys are having a fantastic Thursday, the pre-Friday to your Friday. Today, I get the honor and privilege of going over the much-needed SharePoint e-signature feature. This feature did release end of last year, early this year, so it should be on everyone's tenant, but we'll go into a little bit about how to activate it within your admin portal, as well as how to use this feature on a PDF document for an example. Some terms that you're going to hear throughout this is e-signature. It's kind of self-explanatory, but it's pretty much any signature requested, gathered, or stored electronically. And then another term you're going to hear is pay-as-you-go, which, again, kind of self-explanatory, but you only pay for what you actually use. And in this world full of subscriptions and umbrellas of payment settings, pay-as-you-go is actually becoming quite useful because different organizations use different features in different quantities, and so this will be a really nice feature, especially if you don't have to get signatures every single day or on every single document. So with the SharePoint e-signature, you can quickly and securely send documents for signature to people both inside and outside of your organization. You'll also have a digital audit trail, which is huge, which can be used to verify the authenticity of the documents and transaction. A few things worth mentioning before we kind of just dive in. When Microsoft first announced this feature, they stated that the ideal signing process should be easy, secure, and streamlined within your everyday workflow. So their goal in this was to make it easy, which you're about to see how easy it is, secure, which with the audit trails and the fact that the document's not even leaving your environment or your organizational tenant, so it kind of conforms to the unique security that your organization has for it. And then, of course, the streamlined and workflows. This is able to be automated. This feature is able to be automated. So you can use like a SharePoint collect signature workflow that can route documents to one or more people for their e-signatures. Additionally, the e-signature is pay-as-you-go, like we talked about before. It is $2 per request, and this feature can be turned on or turned off depending on which sites need to have access to it, which document libraries need to have access to it, which users need to have access to it, and so it's very customization friendly to make sure that $2 doesn't keep flying out of your account left and right. Last thing I do want to mention before jumping in is integrations. So this feature can integrate with Microsoft Teams, and you can do the signature process through Microsoft Teams. And also, Microsoft is working on integrating both Adobe Acrobat as well as DocuSign as external providers, and hope they're hoping to acquire more external sharing integrations in the near future, but right now Adobe Acrobat and DocuSign are kind of the elephants in the room when it comes to e-signatures. If you're familiar with e-signatures, you've heard one or both of those, and so I'll show you kind of how they play a role in this as we go along. With that said, I'll go ahead and bring you guys over to the admin portal. This is where you're going to kind of get this e-signature set up. If you have the permissions to do so, you start from the admin center team and you go to setup over here on the left navigation. You scroll down until you find the files and content section, and you'll see the use content AI with Microsoft Syntax. From here, you're going to want to click and enable the Manage Microsoft Syntax portion. So this, once you click inside this is where you can kind of pick and choose how this feature is enabled, if it is enabled, what all that will look like, permissions and document library setup. So once you get all of this set up, you will be good to go. It'll automatically start working pretty seamlessly. And how this will look from a SharePoint site is if we go to the site that houses the document that needs the signature. For instance, I set up a document library specifically for this within the e-signature folder. Let's say I have this, demo PDF that I need signatures on. Up here, you're going to see this new tile for the Get Signatures. Now, when you do have external integrations within those Adobes and that DocuSign, it's going to pop up kind of a drop-down box where you're able to kind of select if you're going with the standard Microsoft e-signature or the external providers. I will say that when you select the external provider, what's going to happen is it's going to open up a new tab and let you access so that you can type in and access your account for that provider. So you do have to already have a license with that provider. The document will already be added to your e-document provider for ease of use. Once that document has been fully signed and executed, a copy of the document will be saved on SharePoint, as well as an email sent out to let everyone know, all the parties know about the full execution. But when you're just selecting the in-house e-signature, what you're going to do is click here, and it'll give you options to add names or email addresses. This does pull from your Microsoft Azure directory. So you can type in different names that you need, for instance, Leona. Maybe it needs to be refreshed. Not a problem. So you add the name or email addresses. You can add external users to this for email address purposes, but definitely check within your organizational securities to make sure that your organization policies are put in place to allow external sharing. Otherwise, those policies won't allow you to make the external signature request. Once you have your names of everyone who does need to sign the document here, you just hit next. From here, it opens up this little toolbox where you kind of just click and you can drag and drop wherever you need that signature. You can also add initials, and you can also add different dates and times just in case you need that. Within this, you have these three ellipses. You can make it required, so the document won't be fully executed unless the signature is enforced. But you can also make it not required. This is perfect for documents that may have, multiple options that you can select or initial beside for maybe SOW or things of that nature. And you can change the recipient of who the signature actually needs to be approved by for this one item. Once you get everything in place, then you'll hit this next icon, which let me make sure one signature needs to be there and one signature per party member that needs to be there. And so when you hit next, it'll allow you to put the title of the email that's about to get sent out, and then an optional message. This is perfect for if you want to let them know anything about the document before they sign. Hey, double check this, things of that nature. Once that's sent, you will be receiving an email. Each recipient of the that needs the signature will receive an email that pretty much states who's requesting it, the note that you put in. For instance, if you put please sign initial and date, and who we're currently waiting on for the signatures to be executed. Once the person hits the view request button, it'll open up the document and greet them with the terms and conditions. Read through it just to make sure that they understand that this e-signature is executable and it is legal binding. So once they hit agree, it will open up the document to sign. I will say the best practice for e-signatures across the board is to click this start button. This is going to walk you step by step through each signature, initial, or date. You can, in theory, go and click each individual one, but you risk the chance of missing an initial here or there. Luckily, you won't miss any required signatures or initials, but if they are optional, there's a chance that they will miss it. So always start from the start button at the top. Once it gets to the first initial signature or date, it will open up the capabilities to type out your name. So if you need your full name on something, or if you just need a shortened version of your name, and you can change the font to kind of customize it to make sure it's more organically you. Once that's done, you hit submit. It will let you know that your signature was added. And if you look over here, you always have this history pane open, which will show you when the document has been viewed by any of the party members, or when the signature has been signed. So you'll have the date and times of when those took place. And so you can manage the different signatures that get sent out. Once all parties sign, you receive an email saying that your signature request has been complete. You can view the signed document. It automatically gets signed out to, or sent out to everyone who needed to sign that document for file storage, which is clean and easy. As for the person who requested the signature, they can click into it, see the fully executed document, as well as, again, that complete history of when everyone viewed it, when they signed it, if there was any changes, if you allowed changes to happen within the document itself. And then the last thing I do want to share is once you complete the document, the full signature request, you can go back in, and what it has done is pretty nifty. So it automatically saves the signed document as a different document within that same folder. And on a second page, it gives you the full audit trail. So you can see all the timestamps, history, when it was sent by, the completion date of the whole document, who it was sent by, some really good information and data. And it won't touch the original organic document. And so if this is a document that you need to utilize as more of a template use, you're free to do so. It'll save them separately. Very easy, very slick, very much so needed within the e-signature space. So very excited to see this come to fruition. The integrations are being added in the month of March, so they're rolling out here shortly. So keep your eyes open for that. As for the e-signature feature, it should be available. So just reach out to your IT or your leadership to have that set up for you. But with that said, that concludes my portion of the webinar, and I'll pass it back to you, Andrea. Thank you.
Thank you, Hayden. We did have a question. I'm not quite sure if you've looked into this yet or not, Hayden, but is this fully compliant with most industries? It seems like it would be with that sort of audit trail, but particularly for financial institutions.
Yeah, it is. So e-signature, there's actually a very in-depth law, and I can send that out after this webinar about what can be used and what can't be used. Most signatures this does verify as just as you would DocuSign, and so it would work for you. I do know with some military codes that you need a wet signature, which is print it out, sign it yourself, and mail it back through the postage service. And so for things like that, you might have some hiccups, but for the vast majority, I'd say 90% of all signatures needed, this would be a great use case tool.
Excellent, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, we will wrap up the presentation portion. Now over to Leona, who's going to show how to kind of duplicate a webinar. Over to you, Leona.
Alrighty, welcome everyone. Yep, today I'm going to be covering kind of a very simple control for you to be able to duplicate webinars. For those who don't know what webinars are, we are in one right now. It's a special type of event that Microsoft has available to us that lets us have presenters and registration for the event and information to be available to the registries. So kind of we're going to run through the methodology of creating one and then also talk through why the idea of duplicating a webinar might be beneficial to your team. So we're going to go ahead and start off. For those who have never made a webinar before, it has to be made specifically in Microsoft Teams. You cannot do this through Outlook, at least currently. You go to a specific date and time, and then up here on the new dropdown, you don't want to click on the new meeting. You want to click on the little dropdown arrow. There's a webinar control. And so webinars, again, have a lot more information than a normal event does. So you have a name of a webinar, its start date, a summary of what the webinar will be, which will be on that kind of page in which you go register to join the webinar. You also have additional controls of co-organizers and presenters. So these are going to be the users who either are managing the event as a whole, so kind of like an Andrea, or one of the presenters like myself, that in which we can have information about that presenter. So maybe you're an organization who has a webinar maybe once a month, maybe once every couple of months, in which actually you might have 10, 15 presenters who are going to be presenting during that webinar. And, maybe there's a lot of information you wish to track for them. So let me just kind of quickly run through entering in some data here as to kind of walk through how this works. So we can give it a bunch of information here. And then what you have to do to get to any of the extra information, you do have to save this initially. And then once it saves it, will generate that new little site that will allow people to register and such. But it also allows us to go into the additional tabs of being able to add in like presentation or presenters bio. So let's say I have a bio for Andrea, in which we have her as maybe an external vendor, and we want to put her company in here, or her job title, or LinkedIn profile, Twitter profile, or their personal website, and then also their bio. And so again, let's say you did have 15 of these users, and you say, okay, I have to key this all in each time. I go ahead and do that. It's a little bit tedious, it's time consuming, but somebody has to do it. There's also the idea of the theming of it. So when you do go to that registration website, what's the image and the banner of it, and what's also the logo of it and the color scheme that exists there. So again, you might have a logo that's provided to you for this webinar or a reusable one that you want to get uploaded there. And there's also registration configuration here. So this is also the controls to determine how many people can we potentially have in here. Is there a cap of users? Is there required manual approval for the event? So do I need to have somebody sign off for each of the attendees who are signing up? Also, when you do click that registration button, what sort of data do we wish to capture? And so in essence, you can configure all this information. That might take you 5, 10, 15, a half an hour, depending on how much information that you're kind of keying into here, which is, again, time consuming. And so eventually you publish your site out. So let's just go ahead and publish our site out and say, you know what, I spent 20 minutes building this event with all the information. And now we have a new webinar. And let's see if it decides to pop up on my screen. Actually, probably just made it for now. It did. So my apologies, Andrea. And so if we go into our webinar now and say, again, let's say I ever need to duplicate this. Now let's say we're going to have this webinar happen, maybe again, almost the same attendees or maybe the same presenters, and maybe I just need to remove one or the other, or maybe add some more people. Now, if you ever right click on one of your existing webinars, there's a duplicate event button available to you, which then again copies every single property except for the registration control in the sense of who has registered. You'll have to re-register again. But everything else is being copied over. So again, all the bio information, all the theming, all the registration controls, everything about it, the email reminders, all the controls are copied over, saving yourself all that rekeying. So again, if I said, actually, I'm not going to be a presenter this time, but maybe Hayden will be a presenter this time, I can go ahead, make that adjustment, and then whenever I'm ready, let's say we're going to have this for maybe the 25th time. And if I go into save and update, I can go ahead and go back into the presenter's bio and then make the adjustment just for that new presenter. But again, because I removed the old presenter, now I only have to worry about the new one that I'm adding in here. So in essence, I can come in here, make the modifications for Hayden's account, and I'll be kind of done versus having to rekey in, again, however many pieces of information that you have. So this is just more of a new quality of life feature that's coming out this month. So you should probably have it as of this moment. If not, Microsoft will hopefully have it by the end of this month to be able to easily and quickly spin up webinars for those who need to use it. So again, I just wanted to convey this idea as, hey, this is a new control that maybe previously, whenever you right-clicked on an event you never saw, it is now available to you guys. So you hopefully can start to gain some benefit from this. So Andrea, I'm going to go ahead and pass it back on to you today. I have a really short one, so thanks for your time, guys.
Thank you all. Yeah, this has been a great time to learn together. This does conclude the presentation portion. We're getting ready to segue into questions and answers. Thank you so much for some great questions in the chat pane. And we can follow up with you as well if you need more information about anything that we've presented today. If you cannot hang on for the live Q&A, this would be a great time to drop off. I would just want to say thanks again for spending your valuable time learning with us, and we hope to see you next month. Be on the lookout for April's dates. They'll be getting sent out very soon. As Michael mentioned earlier in the introduction, today's recording, presentation deck, the how-to documents, some sample code, anything like that, we can deposit into your learning site. And we thank you so much for being a SharePoint Concierge client and partnering with us to grow together. So with that said, on the screen is the how to ask a question. If you'd like to raise your hand, Christy can unmute your mic and we can have some live Q&A with any of the presenters and any topic covered today. Looks like maybe we don't have any other questions. We'll just hang out for 30 seconds or so. Just give everyone a chance to find that hand raise button if you need to. All right, guys, it looks like we've answered everyone's questions. Again, thank you so much for spending time with us. We look forward to meeting you here, same place, just different time. And we'll give you back 2 minutes to go ahead and wrap up just a little bit early. So thank you again for joining us. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.